Hello, Martin here with your property clinic. Yes, it's Ask Martin Monday. That's how you do it. On a Monday, I am yours. At Twitter, at TV Martin Roberts. And you ask me your questions and I'll try and answer them. Make sure you like this video. Boink, boink. And subscribe. It'd be very nice to get my subscriber base up. Up to 4,000. 4,000, I think, is a very important number. But with your help, we can get there. So please tell your friends. I really need your help to get up the numbers. Otherwise, I'll give up hope and not bother anymore. Although all 3,000 odd of you that are there, I really appreciate everything you do for me, and I appreciate your patience and your love and your enthusiasm and your continued subscriptions, even though there's no money involved. Yeah, but then to get to 4,000, it says, there's a number that's 4,000, it's quite a nice number. So get there. Anyway, this is all about questions. Questions you ask me. Here's the first one. It's from Elaine Milford. Hello, Elaine. As so many people follow you in your show, please would you do a special on the pitfalls of leasehold system and the cladding scandal? Well, yes. So the cladding scandal is pretty terrible. If you don't know about it, it's as a result of Grenfell, they tightened up on the fire regulations and safety regulations on similar tower blocks, quite rightly. Unfortunately, because there are so many, this has left a huge backlog of certificates and checks being done, and also it's obviously highlighted a lot of tower blocks which are dangerous, which need remedial works, and unfortunately currently this is falling on the inhabitants of those blocks of flats to sort out. So not only are these people faced with long delays, but they are potentially faced with having to pay large sums of money to sort out the problems, and in the meantime a lot of these properties, because they haven't got the necessary certificates, are not able to be mortgaged. So my heart absolutely goes out to anybody who's in this situation. It is a terrible situation, without a doubt. My only advice, and there was a few people on this particular session, I won't read all the questions that I'm talking about this, is to group together, and your voice will be heard louder and you'll be able to shout louder if there's a group of you. And the only thing I can see is that the government have to step in really and sort this out, because it is a terrible situation for a lot of people to be in, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people who are in this situation, either not being able to move, not being able to remortgage, not being able to sell through no fault of their own. So there needs to be some intervention and some help, because otherwise there's going to be a lot of very desperate people, and we do not want that. Gareth Thomas, hello Gareth. A gifted deposit on a mortgage, does that have any effect on future sales of the property, or is it as described a gift? Well, once you move on to the next person who's buying it, how that property was bought in the first place is largely irrelevant. Now, some mortgage providers don't like it if it's been mortgaged relatively recently, but a gifted deposit is when somebody literally gives the person who's buying that property the money to pay the deposit. So it could be a mother and father giving their son or daughter the money for the deposit as a gifted deposit. It doesn't affect the resale value. The next person who comes along will have a different set of reasons and financial scenarios, but the property is what it is, so don't worry about that one. Wendy Louise Webb, hello Wendy Louise Webb. I believe you're a caravaner. Oh yes, but a bit of a bummer year for caravan this year. Yeah, I haven't been out of the caravan at all. Just didn't like the idea of going to caravan sites when there was all these restrictions. Beautiful places that I know and love. The idea of going to them when you can't do everything you'd like to do, just sort of, from there, can't be doing that. So my favourite place to visit is Dorset, actually. Wareham Forest, really love it there. Down towards Swanage, just that whole Studland, Corfe Castle. Gorgeous part of the world. But actually North Yorkshire would be a close one, because I went to university in Bradford and I absolutely loved North Yorkshire. So loads of times around Harrogate and Scarborough, and that's North Yorkshire coast, obviously. Loved it there. So, haven't taken the caravan there, but I imagine it's absolutely amazing. So yes, Wendy, that's a great idea. I might suggest taking that. The thing I fancy doing is taking it around Scotland, because I haven't done Scotland. And the Highlands of Islands of Scotland sounds like a great thing to do. Rolsey, well, I was saying Rolsey, whatever, mistakes. How do you see the market playing in the next few months, especially with the increase in employment? Well, hopefully the furlough scheme being extended will help, if only push back the problems that might exist until the new year, and it'll be springtime, so that's got to be better than having horrible things happen in November, come to Christmas and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a great believer in property as a long-term investment. Medium term, again, great thing to do. Short term, you know, will we see some effect once stamp duty holidays end? And, you know, that actually now coincides exactly when the furlough scheme ends. So will there be an effect on the property market? I think there probably will be. But if you're buying the right thing at the right price now, you should be, you know, securing good properties that will weather any storm. And as I said, I consider it a medium to long-term investment, not just a short-term thing. So you can ride any temporary ups and downs in the market. Sarah Scottson, hello Sarah. Do you wish you went back to the properties on Homes and have to view them in person? Well, yeah, because you haven't realised, because a lot of people actually think that I do actually visit the properties myself, and I don't. I just do my voice. So it is in fact just a ethereal, is that the right word? Me? Who goes there? Do I wish, I mean, logistically, oh my God, just travelling up and down the country, going back again to a place we've already visited, I think would be a challenge. So yes, it's always lovely to see what people do, but I always see them when I do the voiceovers anyway. So I think the logistics of travelling around the country to see the properties is probably not my ideal thing to do. Colin, hi. I've always wondered, when you get a valuation at the end of a renovation, does the cost include the owner's own time costs, or does that cost come out of any profit? Blech. Well, the valuation is a valuation to whatever the estate agent thinks it's worth. Now, that's not the same as the valuation that a surveyor would give it, but it's hopefully a realistic mark of appraisal of what the house is or flat is worth. The cost, of course, will be fixed. It's the profit I think you're talking about. The owners, if they do their own stuff, will not necessarily put that as a cost into the renovation. So the profit will be what they've spent on getting the house into the state that it is, plus whatever they pay for the property, and then take both those things off the value that the property is now worth. Clearly, one of the great things about doing it yourself is that you don't have a huge cost for labour from a builder or whatever. You have to figure out whether or not that's a time issue, though, because it could take you a lot longer than a builder to do it. In which case, if you're renting it out, you know, is there an opportunity cost for not being able to rent it? But no, it depends. If it's a business doing it, then it'll factor in those costs. If it's people doing it, then generally they don't charge themselves out. Keith Johnson, hello Keith. What's the most unusual you've seen in a property that you've liked? Unusual thing that I've liked. I think the most unusual thing that I didn't like was a rabbit hutch in the kitchen. Now, that's either Thumper being very close to the family or Thumper being very close to the pot. So yeah, probably the most unusual thing I've liked. I can't think of the answer to that one. Well, I guess I was in Wales that had like literally a stone rock face in the lounge. That was quite groovy. Love this one. Mandrake Fraser. Hello, Mandrake. Why does nearly every house have a switch that nobody knows what it does? Should we all flick them at the same time as a nation and see what happens? I love that idea. Everyone has a house with a switch and nobody can quite figure out what it does. Have you got one? If we could coordinate it, Mandrake, that's a great idea. Now, this reminds me of a story, because when I was at university in Bradford, I was responsible for the Great Bog Flush of 1985 or something like that. I did a university radio station called Ram Air, and this got transmitted to all the halls of residence at Bradford University. And we had a charity, kind of like Children in Need type night, when we were raising money for local charities. And these were always wild affairs. Everyone got into the spirit of things and probably consumed quite a lot of spirits as well. I came up with this idea that in the halls of residence, which are like 7 or 8 stories high, all the blocks of toilets were sort of positioned in the same place on each floor. So I postulated what would happen if they were all flushed at the same time. Well, this, for some reason, completely took off, and before I knew it, both halls of residence, Revis and Dennis, were all engaged, and there were people lined up, primed on each floor, coordinated by me on the radio to flush the toilets at the same time. And we did a big countdown, and sure enough, at this particular time, we flushed the toilets. Well, allegedly, according to the people on the ground floor, there was a geyser about 10 feet high that smashed up through the bottom toilet and onto the ceiling and flooded the whole of the ground floor. And I was in big trouble. I think I got called up in front of the principal. I can't quite remember, or maybe I got away with it. I can't remember. But it was an amazing thing. Yeah, it proved a point that the plumbing system could not cope with simultaneous flushing. And likewise, I'm sure that the nation's electricity supply or whatever probably couldn't cope, Mandrake, with us all flicking that switch at the same time. Gareth. Hello, Gareth Evans. How is lockdown going to affect the best show on TV? Hope you're safe and well. Good job. You have a small back catalogue to show. We do. Well, you know, it's not easy. We stopped filming in March and we started filming again in September. And we managed to do a few properties, and now I don't know what the situation is. I think we're trying to find a way that we can do it, but it is taking a lot longer to film the show than it used to. Yeah, it's a challenge for everybody, but we are committed to doing it, and we will carry on doing it, and it might take longer, but you know, we'll get there in the end. And in the meantime, we have got a big back catalogue, as you say, so there will be stuff that we filmed actually early on in the year before lockdown, which the properties are now coming to fruition and people are doing the works and finishing them off. Yeah, there'll be new stuff coming out, don't panic. Claire Kennedy, hello Claire. What's your opinion on HMOs? I'm worried next door is about to become one and it really doesn't seem big enough to me. Well, there are rules and regulations on HMOs. They have to be done in a certain way. They have to provide certain facilities. And so don't you worry about it not being big enough. It will probably have to be licensed, so it'll have to have all the requirements that an HMO needs: fire doors, numbers of fridges, numbers of toilets, all that kind of stuff. And as long as you've got a responsible landlord, then problem tenants and all that kind of stuff is something you shouldn't really worry too much about. So hopefully it will all be fine. And I'm generally a fan of HMOs. They do provide, if you got one and you're renting them out, quite a potentially good income. Doyle Key, hello. Is it worth spending money turning an attached garage into another room, or better off keeping the space as a place to dump stuff in? Ooh, yes. Listen, people need space even more than ever, and a garage is a simple way actually to create an extra room. Now, you could do all sorts of things. You could go the whole hog. You could take out the up and over door or whatever door's on the front. You could put some bifolds out onto the road, more often than not. Or you could just put something in the end there, just lets loads of light in. There are a few rules and regulations regarding it. It's got to meet building regulations. You don't need planning to do it. It must be fit for purpose. And the big thing with garages is they wouldn't have been insulated. So you will have to make sure that the floor and the walls are insulated. Otherwise it'll be mighty parky in there. But I think find somewhere else to dump the stuff, in the attic, whatever. But you know, yeah, useful space. People need space at the moment, so definitely go for it. Neil Connolly, hello Neil. Have you ever seen someone buy a property and thought, what are you doing? Yeah. Quite a few times. There was one quite recently actually in Wales. Somebody bought a fire damage property, which is always, you know, on the scale quite high and risk probability. I hadn't been to see it beforehand. And it was really, really bad. And it affected the property next door, which he'd also bought. And that the property further on from that, and and yeah, he was going to spend so much money on this property and would never, I don't think, get his money back. So yeah, that's one that I definitely thought, I'm sure you thought this one through. Wendy Clark, hi. As we're approaching bonfire night, well, we had it actually last night. What is your favourite firework? P.S. It's my birthday on Thursday. Can you wish me a happy birthday? It will make my lockdown birthday more special. Oh, here's to anyone who has a little birthday during lockdown. Well, in fact, I did. Oh, not quite. July, but I'm supposed to be slightly relaxed. Yeah, my son did, and my daughter did. So my heart goes out to you. Anyway, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, Wendy, happy birthday to you. I hope you had a great birthday. My favourite firework, I like whizzy ones that go round, so Catherine wheels, but big Catherine wheels, you know, the sort of things that go, because I just think they're really great. And you can't beat a good rocket. Big rockets are just great fun. You know, and I know they cause dangers, and I know there's people who get hurt by them every year, and there's probably people who, you know, absolutely hate them and think they should be banned, and handled by irresponsible people, they are terrible things. I mean, I grew up with fireworks as a child, and I don't know, there's something very special about bonfire night if you can even just let off, you know, your own little few fireworks and do it responsibly. I suppose you're always going to be let down by the people who are irresponsible and accidents that happen, but I don't know. Yeah, well, long live sparklers at the very least. It just reminded me, actually, one time a rocket went completely wrong. It was massive. I mean, I brought a massive rocket, like, it's like fantastic, and we lit it, and it built this whole stagey thing, and because you know they need space to set them off, and built this thing to support it. So you know, so I lit it, and it went whoosh, and it went up in the air, and it went up and up and up and up and up and up. It was going whoa, wow, it's going to the moon, wow. It was up and up and up, and then it didn't explode. It came down and down, and it came down and down, and it exploded on the extensions of the house. Oh my gosh! Wow, big shower of sparks. Should have been, you know, going off at 500 feet. It was going off at 0 feet. Yeah, not brilliant. So yes, I do appreciate that sometimes they are quite dangerous. Hello, Adam. Final question. I hope you're doing well this week. I'm just wondering what internet provider you use. In work, we are with Virgin, and we haven't had internet all day. Have you had any issues? Well, I do say you can ask any questions, but specifically asking me about my internet provider is kind of an interesting one. Okay, well, I don't know. I think my internet provider is BT, I think. I think they do a good job. I think on that particular day it was working, and I hope it's got fixed. You know, hey, look, I haven't limited what questions you can ask me. If you want to ask me about problems you've got with your car, or, you know, if you've got a washing machine that's broken, just fire them all in. I'm here to help. But ideally make them sort of property related, or anything to do with me, or the TV, or Homes and Hammer, or whatever. But if you've got random questions about random things, like, you know, your guinea pig's teeth or whatever, just send them in. It doesn't matter. I'm up for it all. I hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next week with more of this stuff.